All right, so I'm here at the paint cabinet. As you can see, there are a variety of different colors, some really exciting options here in terms of bright and bold colors this year. And as always, I'm really just trying to make sure that we have plenty of paint to last us until the end of our semester. And so that being the goal, we're trying to make sure that we are not using too much paint because honestly, sometimes people feel like, oh, I just want to get everything that I need, but then they end up, pouring way too much. They don't come back and ends up using it, and then this all dries out and is nasty and crusty and weird. So we are really trying to make sure that we are only using the amount of paint that we need in any given class period. So in order to do that, I'm going to go over how to pour paint, and obviously accidents sometimes happen, but this is kind of like the best way to try to avoid some of those accidents. So I have my paint palette here. There are a number of different ways that we can get paint onto our paint palettes. Some of you will end up seeing these pumps here. This helps to kind of keep it a little bit more regulated. And so my suggestion with these pumps is to be very careful. For instance, I'm going to kind of demonstrate this is a brand new pump and nothing is happening because it's going to take a while to get the paint up into the actual tube. So in order to actually make sure that this works, I'm going to still be very, very careful, and I have my paint palette over top of, or underneath my, the pump, and I want to just make sure that I'm not overdoing it, because some people will just go and then the paint kind of shoots out and gets all over their clothes. So there we go. I have one and I have two. All right, so we're gonna try to use, if we're using the pump system, we're trying to limit it to 2 squirts of paint. As you can see, that shows up and ends up being about the size of a quarter. And our class periods aren't super long this year. So really when you kind of think about it, there's not a whole lot of painting you're gonna be able to do in 46 minutes, especially if you come in and you're already doing a do now. So I really highly suggest you're only using about this much to get started. You can always come back and get more if you need some. But yeah, we're trying to keep it to 2 squirts if we're using the pump system. Now there are other means of being able to get your paint onto your paint palette. For instance, we have some of these bottles here that don't come with an actual pump. They do have I don't know if you can see that, but there's like a little hole there where the paint comes out of. Again, I'm trying to put about the size of a quarter. So you can kind of see it fills in that space. So whether you're using this kind of palette or you're trying to use this kind of palette, it really should still be about the same size. Like this amount of paint seems like a good starting spot. These amounts of paint look like they wasted a lot of paint because they just dumped a little too much, right? Lastly, some of the bottles do not end up having a pump. And when we open them, they can end up looking like this. So it may require just kind of like peeling back some of the paint. This is kind of gross. But sometimes, it is made out of plastics. That's what acrylic is made out of. So when it hardens, it just turns into a plastic. And so for this, it's very, very important that you're trying to pour as slowly as possible, because if you're not careful, it can kind of go all over the place. So I'm going to very slowly try to increase the incline of the bottle. And then you can kind of see the paint is starting to come out, but I'm going to be very, very careful about how much actually makes it onto my palette, right? So that one takes a little bit more finesse, but you can see I was able to do that and get about the same size onto my palette, right? So those are all 3 different techniques of being able to get paint on your palette. If you're at all a little anxious about it, you can always ask for my help or somebody who has been, really, really doing a great job in terms of their paint distribution, all that kind of stuff. So ask for help if you feel like you're gonna make mistakes. That way we're not wasting paint, because what ends up happening when we waste paint is, we run out of paint and then we limit the amount of options that we have for our projects, all right? So try your best to only put about a quarter's amount. You can always come back and get more if you need it. But I'm pretty much set up here. I've got 4 different colors. We're also trying to limit the amount of colors. 4 colors is a good amount for me to get some progress done. You know, I might have 15 different colors that I'm using for my painting, but I think it really helps, especially with these shorter classes, just to break down your art project into different sections. You're like, all right, today I'm really just gonna focus on the hair, right? And then just get the colors that you need for that specific section. That way we're not pouring a lot of paint that we won't end up using. All right, I don't know if I have any saran wrap, but at the end of class, one of the ways to be able to preserve stuff, if you already have your colors mixed and everything, you can take some saran wrap and be able to put that over top of your paints. That way you can come back in tomorrow or whenever other day that we have painting as an option and just peel back, you know, the saran wrap, get back into your colors. That way we're not wasting things. One of the things I can't stand is at the end of a class, I just see a palette that looks like this with all this fresh paint just sitting in the trash. Like, it's such a waste. So always try your best to save the materials that you're using. That way it lasts, and that we have options to be able to paint for many days to come.